question about spares, I would like to say that I kind of sent some of the spares ahead of time in post offices, and I collected them. I kind of knew that how long will my tires last, or how long will my chain last, or changing the cassette or chain rings. I knew how long. Like, I kind of had an idea because I had spoken with Mark about that, and I had spoken to Juliana about that as well, in fact. And I got an idea, and I sent stuff ahead of time, and then I just kind of popped into the post offices, showed them the receipt, and got what I needed, and changed it. I kind of changed it then and there. And sometimes, I think like there were times when I really wasn't able to do it by myself, and I needed some guidance. And well, I just took it to a bike shop then. But apart from that, yeah, in the most remote stretches, I think the bike didn't have any serious problems apart from just a few flaps and things like that.
How much was the weight you were carrying? Weight on the bike?
So when I started off, the weight was between 25 and 30 kilograms. But in Russia, okay, not in Russia, my bike was the heaviest in the beginning of Europe and throughout from there to Helsinki, because I wasn't sure how I would like to kit up for the European autumn. So my kit was like weighing up to 35 kilograms or 37 kilograms then. But yeah, it started with 25. Please don't feel guilty. Oh, I can do both.
Just to add, the third question was, can you just throw light on the diet? What were the dry stuff you had to carry? Any protein related stuff, and how do you manage that?
Oh no, I just ate whatever I found in gas stations. The cheapest thing at the gas station, and loads of that. So I had my food pouches. I had 3 of them. One of them had like a jar of Nutella. One of them had a jar of peanut butter, and another one had many sauces, like all that I had picked up from random McDonald's or fast food stalls along the way. And yeah, I had a loaf of bread tied on my saddlebag, and sometimes I had bananas in the middle of my aero bars, and sometimes I had this really small, when you order a pizza and a side, the box that you get for the side, I kind of made holes in it, and then I tied zip ties, that readjustable zip ties, and I put some more food in it. Sometimes there was a pizza in it or something. So yeah, I didn't really plan my diet because I knew I had to adapt to whatever came my way. And there was a stretch in Europe where I was literally living off bacon rashers. I had so many of them. I just stopped at places and bought more bacon rashers, and when I finished them off, I bought even more. And that was good. That was protein, I guess.
She had a samosa vada in Karachi. Whatever.
Total cost of your tour, did you maintain expenses free?
Sorry?
Total cost of your tour.
So the cost of
maintain a book for like
yeah, I have maintained the book, but I haven't compiled it yet. But the cost of just cycling and doing it self-supported. So when everybody talks about the entire cost, they also speak of so there were. No, yeah. So the thing is, there were bits when I was being filmed by the production company, and I had to pay some expenses for that. So if all of those were considered, it came down to somewhere around 60 lakhs. But then if only cycling was considered, it came down somewhere between 15 and 20.
I have a question.
Including flights.
Yeah, including the sites, it came down to 15 and 20. But when the filming bits were added, it just went really high because then I had to pay for the film crew. I mean, their food, their accommodation.
Did you get a sponsor for?
So Antil did some parts of it, but most of the filming costs were my father paid for it. It's kind of sad that because we had applied for quite a few sponsorships in India, and it was kind of a shame that I had to ask money to my university in a desperation that, in my own country I applied for sports grants and I applied for sports scholarships. I spoke with people for sponsorships, my father did as well, and nothing really worked in my own country, and I had to speak week I had to have this meeting with the vice chancellor of my university, Pune University, and I had to tell him this whole situation. And he was like, look, like university is a charity. We can't really sponsor you, but we can give you some discretionary funds. So they kind of helped me out with some of my funds.
Yeah.
So they kind of paid for some
To be very honest, I'm not surprised that you didn't get much support or sponsorship from.
Yeah, but that was sad.
I mean, all of us are aware of how little of that is happening. However good the causes are politically.
Well, but perhaps now that it's known that something like this can be done, then maybe the next person who does it will this will get sponsors from India.
For sure. But that's the situation with even the ultra cycling and events. That's the situation for most sports people in cycling particularly. I mean, you go approach somebody, it's not a recognized sport, everything is path-breaking work right now. So this is definitely more of that. So I had one question. You mentioned a couple of times that you were camping. So were you carrying like a baby sack or a sleeping bag or what?
Oh yeah, I had a baby bag and a sleeping bag,
Okay.
and yeah, and
you
a
slept
snack
at
as
gas
well.
stations? You slept outdoors in the gas station?
Oh
or-
yeah, I slept on the benches they have sometimes,
Okay.
or behind the gas stations where there's just open fields and things like
Yeah.
that. Sometimes there were forests and things. So
Yeah.
just slept in the open. It's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
It's like it's fun
Yeah.
until you get a few mosquitoes.
I have a question.
I have a question here. So what sort of preparations did you do before?
Exactly, I had something like that.
Preparation.
Like what meant to say is that what kind of training really helped you, because I understand the kind of motivation and the determination that you must have had must have been even prior to you starting to all the trainings required. So there must be a lot of input before you actually got started with it. So what is it that you really helped and was important for you to do the training for you to feel confident to take your first step?
I was really fortunate with getting help from my university for the training. They let me use all the resources that were available. So if I wanted to use the watt bike at 2 a.m. in the morning, then they made a separate code for me. So all the doors are locked with some codes. So they had made a separate code for me for the whole building, the whole sports building. So I could just pop in and do any workouts or whatever I wanted, and they had helped me make a strength and conditioning plan. I had a sports psychologist as well, who I had a few sessions with, and there was a physiotherapist who helped me fix my knee, like officially fix my knee, not using Google. And university helped me a lot with training, and every time I went for training rides, they even took my all the data and told me what I need to get better at and whatnot. So that was really good. Like, if I didn't have that, perhaps I wouldn't have been able to dream bigger or. So I remember.
6 months?
Oh no, it started like over a year ago.
Yes.
From when I started. So
So I remember when we met, you were sort of questioning the idea of having a coach, and there was a question was raised about whether you were coachable at all. So how
Yes.
did that get resolved?
We figured that I figured that I could work with a few mentors, and
Would you like some?
Can I keep this now? I just worked with a few mentors on that level. Yeah, and I always knew that Sumit Gautam,
Yeah.
he was always on the other end of the phone call when I had any questions about this kind of stuff, about what I could do better, and that was that actually. I spoke with many people about this, and I realized
an official coach.
no, there was no official coach. I spoke with Mark Bowman regarding, if I should have a coach or not.
Right.
And he just went, what are you doing at the moment? And I said, well, I'm cycling long distances, and I'm kind of speaking with people I know about this. And then I told him more about this. It kind of worked out.
Yeah.
I mean, when I knew that I was able to do a certain distance in a certain time, that was a confidence boost, and I had to take it from there. And there was only so much university could do for me. The rest was like kind of on me, and I think the same happens when you work with a coach as well.
Yeah.
There's only so much somebody else can do for you.
Yeah.
Was there any hydration issue any time? Hydration in minerals.
I did actually, yeah. I had a hydration issue again in Canada, but in the northern parts of Alberta and Saskatchewan, where I really wasn't supposed to go, but I ended up going. I hadn't done much research about the gas stations or refueling points anywhere in between, so I didn't know. So there was a point where I genuinely considered weeing in a bottle and just, just in case. I didn't do that. I didn't need any of that, but it was a genuine concern at the
So
point.
at the time, how much water did you carry with you while riding?
In Canada, I had a hydration bag, and I carried 3 liters worth of that, and then I had like 1, 2, 3, so 2 more liters. And
You ran out of
okay, not 2 more liters. It was like 750, 750.
Right.
So yeah, at that point, I hadn't found a refueling point for a very long stretch.
Right.
So obviously, I ran out of water, and I was genuinely concerned. But again, I was saved by road angels.
Okay.
I think that because I heard that people call them that. So yeah, I really ran to people. I just flagged them down and asked them for water, and I was like, is there anything I can get help with? And yeah, they just refilled everything I wanted. They gave me more food and fat. Yeah.
Just a general question. Over a period of 29,000 kilometers, like from the start to the end, what are the things that you that transformed you, like changed about people, about cycling techniques, or like your experience?
Oh.
In the start till now, how do you feel about the beginning or across along the way?
I think one thing that hasn't changed is that I still second question myself on my decisions. But then I realized that throughout the expedition, I had to take many decisions in very less time. So I didn't have much time to take that decision, and I didn't have the time to think if it's right or wrong. I just, decided something and stuck with it. For example, the thing with Iceland, when I knew the weather was going to be bad, I had to take the decision, but then I didn't go with my instinct there, and I learned it the hard way because I didn't go with my instinct that, take the next fly to Portugal and continue, you will waste less time. Instead, I tried cycling across Iceland, and within, I think it was between kilometer 50 and 70, where I got actually hit by a minibus. And then I just kind of, got off because the visibility was so low, and it was crazy, 30 miles winds, and then winds from the east. I was heading east, and then I think if I was walking, I would walk faster than what I was cycling at. So it was really terrible, and I was like, if I'm cycling, I'm still going somewhere, and I wanted to stick with it. And I went back on the bike, and then there was this emergency services vehicle which came, and it was like, it's unsafe for a cyclist to be here right now because there are warnings for, camper vans for the winds, and there was like a red alert and whatnot. So they basically got me off the road.
Okay.
They took me back to the capital city, and I figured that the first decision that I thought I should have made to just fly to Portugal straight away would have been a better one. But instead I had to have that crash. I had to go through all that. So that made me realize that sometimes the first decision that I decide to make might be the right one. So I think a lot about my decision making changed, and a particular experience to do with who not to get pressurized by, in terms of when I figured that the expedition wasn't on track, I wasn't on track anymore to be the fastest woman, but then I still had it in me somewhere that maybe I can, and I was still trying even when it was taking me 10 hours, 12 hours to do 120 kilometers. I got a particular phone call in the hotel where I was staying, and I was told very negatively about my expedition, and I was told that I shouldn't be on the road, and I was told that I will be disqualified. It was kind of a threat, maybe. It was kind of really bad, whatever it was. I
known to you, or was this?
it was somebody known to me,
Okay.
but it was unexpected, so I took it to heart. And because I was already concussed, when you get a head injury, you're kind of gone halfway there, and I took it really seriously, and I was in a serious consideration of, is it right for me to be here? Am I ever going to finish this? I'm not even able to cycle, and all the taunts, they just, hit right to my heart, and they just drove the point home that perhaps this expedition is meant to be done for me right now, than for a record.
Right.
And then I just decided to see for next 2 days. So I kept going for 2 more days, and I spoke with, I particularly remember that when I had told Sumanta about this, he was concerned, of course, but he knew that, I wasn't supposed to listen to the wrong people about this.
Yeah.
And he advised me something which I later realized was right advice, but I kind of couldn't, I wasn't in the state of mind to listen to it, kind of thing. And I really slowed down and got really depressed. I continued riding, and I had that in my head that, keep this ride for your own sake, and that thing.
Yeah.
And I continued, and it was good. Like, I spoke with a few friends after that incident, and I realized that, I know that people are there for me anywhere I go. I know people are there for me on the other end of the phone call. I'm not alone going through this.
Yeah.
And I hadn't told my dad for a good 5 days after I got mugged in Spain. So
Do you want to share that story with?
Oh God. Okay. But yeah, so that was that. Just the decision making.
When you say you got mugged, was it like somebody trying to steal something or you got lost?
Not trying, success.
Yeah, they successfully stole a lot of money from me, but then they also managed to kind of threaten me with, I was on the other end of a knife point, and there was like this person behind me holding me tight with like a knife right here. I still remember how sharp the knife was. Like, it was glistening sharp. That's like a bad level of sharp. It's like a scary level of sharp. And the other person was just, tearing my hydration pack and trying to find things in that. And I was like, no, there's not much apart from a water pack, the actual hydration pack. I don't know what's he going to find. And then I realized that my foreign currency, the actual cash that I was carrying, is in that.
Yes, awesome.
And that was horrible. Like, he took around 400 quid or 400 and 450, somewhere around that. And yeah, and then I was kind of, they started screaming at me. They were screaming really loudly, and at that point I got a minute, not a minute, I got a moment to capture the situation, and I looked at their motorbike's number, license plate, and I was like, you know what, I can report that. I won't get my money back, but they won't do it to anybody else ever again. And once they continued going through my bags and everything, and then there was still this guy holding a knife against my throat, I memorized their number, and I memorized the person's face in front of me. I tried to. I remember his hair and his face shape, and I was like, okay. Then I kind of tried to figure out if if his features were familiar, I could figure out where he's from. I couldn't do that, of course, but still, like, I could see a few features, and I was like, okay, fine, I can report that. And then they ended up just, the bike was with him, and all I could do was wait and watch. And I decided to get myself at a really practical place. The worst that could happen was they could actually kill me, and the best that could happen was they could take my money and go. And then they pushed I was climbing something, so they had stopped me whilst I was climbing something. So my bike was pushed down, and I was pushed down, and because my helmet strap was off, I fell straight on my head, and I think I went unconscious for a while, because the next thing I remember is, I still remember the number somehow. Like, luckily, I remembered the license plate, and it became really easy to track them down after that because of that. But okay, not easy, but they tracked them down for all I know. And yeah, and I figured that I don't know what's happening. I don't know where I am, and my tracker was still on, but I didn't. If I press the emergency button, my dad would know.
Right.
And Callum would know in the UK, my friend would know.
Yeah.
And I just went, oh, okay, do I want these people to know about this right now?
Mm-hmm.
And I just figured that it would be too much of a concern for them. So I was like, you know what, I'll try and figure this out. So I just kind of tried to sit up, and I was like, so where's my bike? And I saw the bike. And then I found my helmet, the headlight wasn't working, and I was like, something has to work. So I crawled to the bike. Now I know exactly where everything on my bike is kept. So I just found my extra light.
And was this in the night?
It was in the night, so I had to use a light. It was like late evening to night. So when it happened, it was late evening when I could still see their faces.
Right.
And when they were
And that
gone,
came through.
when I was trying to regain my consciousness and figure out things, it was like properly night, yeah. And then I kind of got the bike up. I laid the bike down on the ground, and I was like, okay, this is bad. I can't lift my head up more than, and then I was like, okay, what can I do? Let's see, can I move my arm? Can I move my feet? Can I do jumping jacks? So I tried everything I could, and I was like, I'm not able to do anything. This is bad. What am I doing? Then the next priority was, how is my bike? That was the first priority actually, but first I needed to know if I'm in a condition to see how my bike is. And I kind of touched the frame. I saw if there were any cracks and stuff, because if the bike is gone, the expedition is gone.
Right.
The rule is you have to use the same frame throughout.
Oh.
So you can't change the frame.
I
So
didn't know that. Wow.
if that was gone, then it
That's
wouldn't have
the other
happened.
way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So fortunately, very fortunately, the bike was fine. Like nothing had happened. Okay, a few things had gone wrong, but they were all fixable.
Mm-hmm.
But at that point, I wasn't going to fix anything. So I just got the bike up and I walked. I was like, I remember I was going in this direction. I'm on the right side of the road. They definitely didn't take me on the other side, so I must be going up. And I kept walking. I came to this gas station. I still wasn't crying about what happened, because I knew that that wasn't the moment. Because I knew that it was enough traumatic for me to realize that the moment I crash and the moment I mentally crash, I'm gone. So I just reported that incident, and the police didn't understand me. So I asked the gas station guy using Google Translate. I just told him what happened, and I was like, look, I almost died. This could have been the end of everything I've managed to do. I need your help. And he kind of informed the police, and that was when I realized that, okay, now what? Like, I really can't do anything with my head like this. Concussion could be a head injury. At that point, I didn't know it was concussion. And just then, he just said, you know what? I'll take you for a coffee down the road. Let's keep your bike here, and we'll figure out what to do. And this guy, who didn't know me at all, was ready to shut down his business to help me out. And I was okay. I wasn't in the condition to think that way, but now that I think of it, it's a big thing that somebody did for me.
Yeah.
And then we were sitting there, and I was telling him, and he knew a little bit of English, so he knew that I was in a danger, or my head was injured. And then there was this family sitting right next to us. They understood English very fluently, and they just got really concerned, and they panicked. Like, until that point, I hadn't panicked, but they properly panicked. And they just went nuts. They were just like, get in the car, we're taking you to the hospital. And they just were, they wanted to call the ambulance and stuff. I was like, no, just if you want to help, take me to a hospital. Yeah, like, this isn't helping. And we went to the hospital. A few tests were done, and they found out that I had concussion. Symptoms involve really horrible things, which affect, because it's injury to your brain, like it's not even like a injury to your skull, it's like injury to your brain.
Yeah.
So it affects, coordination.
Yeah.
It affected my performance. It affected my digestion, and it affected every single thing that could go wrong. And at that point, like when I knew it was concussion, for a minute I was like, this is it, I'm done here. But then I figured that, what's the worst that can happen? And I asked him, so what do you think? And the doctor didn't understand English either. So this family, they were half Spanish, they knew English, so they were Spanish. So they spoke with this doctor, and they were like, look, we are taking you to a hotel, you're going to stay there for 2 days, 48 hours, don't go anywhere. Your bike is at the gas station, but we will get it over there for you. And if you don't like this place, we will come pick you up. And and this was in the middle of the mountains, so their house was really far away. So instead, they kind of dropped me off at this hotel, which was which was really close to the gas station actually. It was like a pub, and then I didn't know that pubs had a few rooms to spare, but they did. So that's where I stayed, and my bike was at some gas station. They got it for me, and it was kind of, I was sitting in that room not knowing what to do with myself. I was just like, I screwed up, this is bad, this is it. And then suddenly I spent 24 hours just cursing myself on deciding to ride through that night when I knew that there was a good place I could have rest at. And I just went, bad decision. I can do nothing about it now. This is it. I almost died, and all I could think of was how sharp the knife was. And then I just tried to joke about it. I was like, I wonder if I could ask the guy how he sharpened his knife or something like that. And I just kind of wanted to, make something fun out of that situation. But the truth is, it wasn't funny at all. It was real. Yeah. So it wasn't 48 hours. 36 hours later, I got back on the bike, and I started like riding it, and when I felt like my head was like agonizingly painful, I just stopped, and I was like, I can have a tea. And then at that point, the aim was to ride until I think I can't ride anymore, and that usually tended to be around 12 hours, and I could only cover 100, 120 kilometers. That's how slow I was. I just couldn't. Like I could be giving it my all, but I wouldn't go above 15 kilometers per hour just because my body wasn't just working. And somehow like it lasted for a long, long time, all the way till Compiègne, which is between Paris and Brussels. And my actual like speed thing kicked off after Brussels, but all the way until Compiègne, I was just really struggling to keep going. And the only aim at that point kept being, if I can ride my bike, I will get somewhere. It wouldn't be a record timing. Maybe I get disqualified, but if I stop, maybe I will give up. So I kind of had to keep going. That was like a mental thing. I had to, otherwise I knew I wouldn't keep going. So whatever speed, whatever stress and weird depression things were happening with me, I knew I could, and then when I told my parents, I told my dad first, and he understood, like he was concerned, like every father would be, but he understood that bad things happen.
Actually, I was hoping that your parents would be here today.
They are on their own adventure. They are driving from Kolkata to here.
Nice.
So yeah, they are on their own adventure. So they're still young.
So conventionally, parents are so overprotective of their kids, and conventionally, parents are so concerned about streamlining their children and their lives and controlling it. So for me, it was great to meet your dad. It's like, wow, this is a parent who is just like, how many parents do we know who would give their 19-year-old daughter the full support, not just permission, like forget permission, but support to go even from Pune to Bombay on a cycle. So I'm amazed. I just love the fact that you guys do
I just want to ask a question.
Just want to add her grandparents are here.
Oh, is it?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's one.
First of all, congratulations. Can I ask a question in Marathi?
Yeah.
Because I think many of our someone.
Please speak in Marathi.
Okay?
मराठीत बोला please.
पूर्वीची वेदांगी म्हणजे मिशन सुरू करण्यापूर्वीची आणि आत्ताची वेदांगी यामध्ये तुम्हाला काय नक्की फरक जाणवतो?
आय थिंक मला माझ्या कॉन्फिडन्समध्ये बराच फरक जाणवतो. म्हणजे ओके, मला माझ्या कॉन्फिडन्समध्ये आधीपासून आत्तापर्यंत खूप फरक जाणवतो आणि माझ्या डिसिजन मेकिंगमध्ये किंवा माझ्या प्लॅनिंगच्या ह्याच्यामध्ये. कारण मी या एक्सपिडिशनमध्ये खूप वाईट डिसिजन घेतलं. म्हणजे सार्कॅस्टिकली वाईट नाही, रिअलिस्टिकली अतिशय वाईट डिसिजन घेतलं प्लॅनिंगमध्ये किंवा एक्झिक्युशनमध्ये या राईडचं. आणि आय डिडंट नो इट ॲट द टाइम, पण नाव दॅट आय फिनिश्ड आय कॅन लुक बॅक अँड बी लाईक नो, that was a stupid decision, I shouldn't have done that at all. तर ते आता मला नेक्स्ट टाइम मी जेव्हा असे डिसिजन्स घेईन तेव्हा आय थिंक मला स्वतःमध्ये जास्त कॉन्फिडन्स असेल की यु नो हे नक्की बरोबर आहे किंवा हे नक्की चुकीचं आहे. आणि हां, आय थिंक तो खूप डिफरन्स आहे आधी आणि
19-year-olds really are faced with having to make these kind of decisions, big and small, that affect things that they're doing so much. It's very so.
I think I would. The day in Russia when I had been cycling for 7 days, sleeping out, only sleeping for the peak hours of the day, and then there was this day I got to this place called Samara, and I was welcomed in that hotel by the whole staff. I stayed there for free because I just called them to ask if I could get an offer, because I told them I'm doing something like this. I have been only sleeping for 4 or 5 hours and cycling literally throughout the day, and I am going to be tired, and I'm cycling like, you know, between 280 and 300 kilometers in the snow, so I am going to be tired when I get to Samara. Can I please get any offer or anything in your hotel? I've seen that this is the only good hotel there, so I kind of, you know, said some good things about the hotel as well. It was called Lotte Hotel Samara, and they really were good people, I guess. They just took me really seriously, and they were following my, I had given them the link to my tracker. At that time, my tracker wasn't on for the public. It still isn't. Okay, sorry, I'm done. Sorry, it isn't. It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't at that point. And I reached there, and suddenly I was welcomed with a bouquet and like cake, a chocolate cake, and there were many people just clapping, and I was like, what? I thought they would. You know, I thought they thought I'm a wrong person, you know? maybe they expected somebody else coming through, and that was real, that was happening, that was all for me. And then I was sitting in the middle of this room, still covered in snow and all my gear, but the heating was at 30 degrees inside, and the whole staff was sitting there, and suddenly I was sharing some of my best and worst stories of this whole trip to them, and in that moment none of that, like, you know, it didn't matter that I haven't slept for like a long time in since past few days, or the fact that I haven't been properly comfortable or indoors for the last 7 days, or the fact that the temperatures went so down that I thought I was going to actually freeze to death at some point. So like none of that mattered, because right there, like I was sharing stories with people I absolutely did not know, and who were feeding me a lot of cake and giving me a lot of tea, and it was just a great chat. It was around 15 or 20 people, if I'm not wrong, and that was like the ground stuff, like the ground floor stuff for that hotel. And they washed my bike, they serviced my bike, they kept everything. Like they gave me the best room they had. They gave me a sports massage, and they gave me everything that I hadn't asked for or expected. And that's why I say that, Russians are so much better than any of us would have thought before we experienced them. It was an amazing experience. And for the the moment I entered that hotel and everybody was applauding, and the moment when I didn't know if it was for me, I would like to live that moment again, because it was just very special. Because it wasn't.
I want to share one experience of my father.
Yes.
When she was in, I think, Mumbai near Panvel, they called me up. Actually, my brother is very close to their family. So I was follow karat hoto. Then suddenly I WhatsApp them and I told my relation with my brother and all. So after that, he was so jailed की प्रत्येक 10 मिनिटाला ते मला अपडेट्स द्यायचे. अरे ती पनवेलमध्ये आले, अरे ती हे आले. म्हणजे एक बाप किती आनंदी असू शकतो आणि किती तो डिवोटेड आहे त्याला. That was too good. That night I know that I had tears in my eyes की एवढं करू शकतो. नेक्स्ट मॉर्निंग पण सगळे तिचे लोक तिच्यापाशी जमा झाले होते आणि तरी पण त्यांनी मला मेसेज केला, तू कुठे आहेस, तू ये तिकडे. म्हणजे प्रत्येक माणसाला ते एवढे हे करत होते. अँड जेव्हा मी त्यांना बघितलं नव्हतं काय, पण ज्यावेळी मी बाणेरपासून कात्रजपर्यंत तिला मी हे केलं, थोडंसं तिच्याबरोबर होतो, तर त्यावेळी मी त्यांना बघितलं आणि आईला बघितलं तिच्या आणि एक वेगळ्या लेवलची कॉन्फिडन्स लेवल जो असतो ना की माझ्या मुलीवर, आय हॅव सीन दॅट अँड दॅट वॉज अमेझिंग. आय थिंक यू ऑल मिस दॅट. मी ते पुणे रंग न्यूजला टाकलं होतं की तुम्ही या सगळे तिकडे. अजित वॉज दॅट, अजित माने अँड मी, आम्ही तिकडे आलो, आम्ही तो एक्सपिरियन्स घेतला. दॅट वॉज ऑसम.
Maybe it's a philosophical question, but to wrap up the discussion and the ride also. So, as a 19-year-old kid, like you might have some perception about the world, how it would be, and considering all good and bad experiences, how you really look at the world right now after covering all
this. I was going to say the same thing.
Yes.
You
like
can't
traveling all 15
go
countries,
right
29,000 kilometers. How you like?
Like
Forget about the people and all that stuff, but how you look at the world, because we come across like so many things, ये चल रहा है, वो चल रहा है, ये साले इतनी white है आणि ये. But what is your philosophy like? How you look at the world right now?
I think I suddenly had an open mind, like the day I finished, like officially, and when I was done, and I suddenly couldn't remember the bad things that happened to me. All I could remember was every good person I met. I particularly remember that person who had driven 4,000 kilometers to see me, and then, he kept being around for a few days just to give me enough grapes because he knew I loved grapes. I don't know that person. I hadn't met him before that ever. So I came to think that, perhaps until we experience good and bad both in one particular experience, one particular incident, we kind of don't realize that there's more good in the world than bad. Like, it's easy for me to say that I almost died because of the 2 mugs who kind of almost killed me, but it's like, the thing to remember is that after it was done, the gas station guy left his business. The family got overly protective as if I was their own kid, And they still, to date, they ask me where I am. They keep asking me, the day I finished, they were like, so do you still have the symptoms of concussion? Are you okay? In Russia, they kept telling me that, if it's too cold, stay inside. So, that wasn't, none of that was planned. And I kind of realized that it's easy to forget the good things that happened right after the bad ones. And after finishing, I realized that the good ones were more important than the bad ones, because the people who took me to the hospital were the ones who saved my life. So the person who saved my life is more important than the person who almost killed me, is what I'm trying to say. So I think that's what I learned.
Actually, the robbers were dumb because they didn't find your bike valuable.
I'm sorry.
They were mugs. Muggers.
They wanted.
What next? Do you have any
More expeditions, I guess. I've only seen 15 countries. There's more to the world than that.
Yeah.
How was your last day? Finally it's over and you don't have to ride the next day. What was the experience of the last day of the expedition? You were feeling bad.
It was really strange. I remember Sumit was riding with me. I cycled 235 kilometers that day, and he was riding with me for 135 kilometers. And throughout the time, every time I said, I feel like having tea, we didn't care if it wasn't 4 hours yet. We just stopped and had tea because it was the last day. We just stopped and had long chats just because it was the last day. So it was like I didn't want that day to end. And then when the last 100 kilometers, I was like, left to, have my own thoughts and just be me. And after I was, they were giving me countdown from a car, you have 40 to go or whatnot. And when I was actually done, I was just like, that's not possible. How is it done? And it was really a strange feeling. I didn't know whether I wanted to laugh or cry, and I still haven't come to the point where I can actually believe that 29,000 kilometers is a lot of distance, and I actually did that. It's still not sinking in properly. So it's kind of, yeah.
What were all the superlatives that you managed to do? So you're the youngest person in the world to have circumnavigated by cycles.
Yeah. Youngest.
And you're the first Asian?
Yeah, first Asian, first Indian, fourth fastest.
Fourth fastest.
But then only
How
four
many have
women.
done it?
So in I don't know, overall I think only 50-ish people have done it in the world, the complete circumnavigation, but only 4 women have done it, so I'm the fourth and the fourth fastest woman. So I can say me khalun paili ale.
Wow, I think it's
Bike. That is the main thing.
Huh?
Bike.
It's never about the bike.
Cycling. You're cycling. Bicycle.
Yeah.
त्याच्याबद्दल सांग.
Ison works.
काय होतं कसं
Ison workshopनी ती bike माझ्यासाठी बनवलेली, and they suggested me about the components and about what stuff I could be carrying on it, and they didn't realize that I would be doing any winter cycling. So the bike was not at all made for winter cycling. So I just spoke with a few random people when I was at Helsinki, and my friend has this bike shop of his stepfather, and he just said, I can equip you with winter tires, and maybe we could use bungee cords to make panniers. So I didn't have any front panniers. I just used dry bags and then tied them with bungee cords. And yeah, the bike, it's like, it doesn't look anything like it did on the first day. Obviously, it's really scratched and everything, but I call my bike Cappuccino, and yeah, Cappuccino showed me around the world, I guess. That's all I would say. I don't have much to say about it.
One question.
I guess so I'm writing a book about this expedition, and a production company in Canada called Anthill Films is helping us to make a documentary about this. But I think I want to continue doing expeditions like this, and my next goal would be, I guess, Silk Road Mountain Race, which is in August. That's next. That's very next.
Yeah.
Soon enough.
Do you intend Tour de France?
No.
No.
No racing?
I like to do things by myself.
I think she is having different type of GPS, God protection system. Different type of GPS.
I think that the universe wants, you know,
She is born for that.
the energy of the universe actually supports us in doing the positive things. And she pretty much found that.
Yeah.
So
माझा अनुभव
Trido?
असे अनुभव
Sorry.